On December 5, 1945, 5 Navy bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station for what should have been a routine training mission. 2 hours later, all 5 planes and their 14 crew members had vanished without a trace somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. The search and rescue seaplane sent to find them, it exploded in midair and disappeared too. 6 aircraft, 27 men gone in a single afternoon. The Navy searched for weeks, covering over 200,000 square miles of ocean. They found nothing. No wreckage, no bodies, no distress signals. It was as if Flight 19 had simply been erased from existence. This is the story that launched 1,000 conspiracy theories and made the Bermuda Triangle the most feared stretch of water on Earth. Lieutenant Charles Taylor was an experienced pilot with over 2,500 flight hours under his belt. He'd survived combat missions in the Pacific during World War II, but while he was a seasoned veteran, he had just transferred to the Naval Air Station from Miami. This was his very first time leading a flight over this specific route. The training mission was supposed to be nothing more than a practice bombing run over the Bahamas. Flight 19 consisted of 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers, each carrying a crew of 3. These were not experimental aircraft or untested technology. The Avenger was a proven workhorse of the Navy, reliable and sturdy. The weather forecast called for ideal flying conditions with clear skies and calm seas. The mission plan was straightforward. Take off from Fort Lauderdale, fly east to Hens and Chicken Shoals for practice bombing, then continue east to Great Sail Key before turning back northwest to complete the triangle-shaped route and return to base. Total flight time, approximately 2 hours. It was the kind of routine training flight that happened dozens of times every month. At 2:10 in the afternoon, the 5 Avengers roared down the runway at Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station and lifted off into the clear sky. The takeoff was normal, the weather perfect, and the planes were fully fueled with enough gas for several more hours of flight time. Everything was going according to plan until 3:30 that afternoon. That's when the control tower at Fort Lauderdale received the first distress call from Lieutenant Taylor, but it wasn't what anyone expected to hear. Taylor had become profoundly disoriented. He mistook the islands of the Bahamas below him for the Florida Keys, thinking he was far south of the peninsula. He made a fatal decision to lead his flight further out to sea, believing he was heading north over Florida. The flight instructor in the control tower tried to guide Taylor back to base, but Taylor's responses became increasingly frantic and confused. He reported that his compasses were malfunctioning and that nothing below looked familiar. Radio communications continued for several more hours, stretching into the evening. Other pilots in Flight 19 could be heard in the background, their voices filled with confusion and growing panic as they flew into the dark and deteriorating weather. They were completely lost over the black waters of the Atlantic Ocean. At roughly 7:04 p.m., radio operators intercepted what would be the final chilling transmission from Flight 19. Lieutenant Taylor's voice came through the radio one last time. "All planes close up tight. We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first man drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together." Then silence. A massive search and rescue operation was launched immediately. The Coast Guard Navy scoured the waters between Florida and the Bahamas. The search area covered over 200,000 square miles of ocean. They involved over 300 aircraft and dozens of ships, but Flight 19 had vanished as completely as if it had never existed. The mystery deepened when one of the rescue planes, a PBM Mariner seaplane with 13 crew members aboard, also disappeared. The SS Gaines Mills, a nearby merchant ship, reported seeing an explosion and a ball of fire on the horizon at the exact time the rescue plane would have been in that area. 27 men had now vanished in a single day. The Navy's official investigation concluded that the cause of the disappearance was causes or reasons unknown. It was an unprecedented admission. The most powerful Navy in the world, with all its resources and expertise, could not explain what had happened to 6 of its aircraft and 27 of its personnel. But that official conclusion only fueled more questions and theories. Lieutenant Taylor had reported that his compasses were malfunctioning, but how could all the compasses on 5 different aircraft fail simultaneously? The Avengers were equipped with both magnetic and gyroscopic compasses. For both systems to fail on multiple aircraft was virtually impossible. The weather reports from that day showed clear skies and calm seas at takeoff, but conditions rapidly worsened as the flight pushed further out to sea into the evening. There were no unusual atmospheric conditions initially, but the dark, stormy Atlantic swallowed them whole. Perhaps most puzzling of all, the search teams never found a single piece of wreckage. The official Navy report noted several troubling inconsistencies. The flight should have had enough fuel to continue flying for hours after the initial distress contact, yet they ultimately ran dry over open water. The search began within hours of the disappearance, but the vast expanse of the Atlantic offered zero clues. In the years that followed, the Flight 19 incident became the cornerstone of what would later be called the Bermuda Triangle legend. Author Charles Berlitz popularized the story in his 1974 book, The Bermuda Triangle, claiming that the area was somehow responsible for the mysterious disappearances of ships and aircraft. Berlitz and other writers suggested that Flight 19 had encountered some kind of supernatural force or extraterrestrial phenomenon. They pointed to Taylor's spinning compasses and later invented fictional quotes about white water as evidence of unusual electromagnetic activity in the area. For decades, rumors swirled that the Navy music was hiding something. But the truth is, the official 500-page Board of Investigation report has been declassified and publicly available for years. Music. Originally, the Navy blamed Taylor for the fatal navigational errors, but after his mother petitioned the board to protect her son's legacy, they changed the official verdict to causes or reasons unknown. It was an unprecedented move that inadvertently fueled decades of conspiracy theories. The Bermuda Triangle may be nothing more than a stretch of ocean where coincidence and tragedy intersected on that fateful afternoon, or it may be something else entirely, something that our science and understanding cannot yet explain. Until Flight 19 is found, the mystery remains. 14 families still wait for answers, and the legend of the Bermuda Triangle continues to grow, fueled by one of the strangest disappearances in aviation history. If you want to explore more aviation mysteries, hit subscribe if you want to see more mysteries that challenge everything we think we know about flying, because the skies hold more secrets than most people realize.